On March 16th, it was the 1-year anniversary of the US going into lockdown. What I and so many others thought would be a 2-week break and something that would just eventually disappear didn't really disappear as how we thought it would. And when a couple weeks passed by, everyone was like, okay, by the time spring or summer comes around and the weather gets warmer, then the virus is going to eventually die out. But that didn't happen either. Now we're more than a year in and we finally feel like we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. It finally looks like things are going back to normal. But what is normal? Today I want to talk about some of the things that I've learned throughout the pandemic and why I've learned to be thankful for the time that I've had inside. When society entered the pandemic and everything went into lockdown, the thing that was at the top of everyone's mind was, when would things go back to normal? When would I be able to go to the gym again? When would I be able to eat inside of restaurants? Or when would I be able to hang out with my friends without masks? And being a year in, so many have realized that there is no going back to normal. Society as a whole has gone through way too much change to just go back to where things were before. Masks are probably going to be the norm for the next couple years, and if indoor dining ever becomes normal again, it's going to be very limited and spread out. So many jobs no longer require you to be at the office, and as a result, so many people are moving out of cities like New York and LA to cities that are less crowded with cheaper amenities because they can get the same work done from virtually anywhere. People no longer feel the need to live in a crowded, busy city where everything is shut down. The events that used to happen day in and day out are no longer happening. And since everybody needs to social distance, the friends that they had in the city, even though close by, feel very distant as well. So after this pandemic is over, we're not going back to normal. We're going into a new normal with new policies and new restrictions. And going into it, we need to learn how to rebalance our expectations. This is something that I heard Ryan Serhant talk about that I really resonated with. When the pandemic first started, so many of us were thinking that we would go back to normal within a couple weeks. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. And when a couple months went by and we still didn't go back to normal, we needed to learn how to rebalance our expectations. We needed to accept that it would probably take longer. We don't know how much longer. But until then, we need to accept that this is going to be temporarily our lifestyle. If we didn't learn to rebalance our expectations, we would be constantly let down over and over again, and it wouldn't be a fun time. And this took me a while to learn. At the beginning of the pandemic, I struggled with staying at home all day, not being able to go anywhere. I used to love going outside, whether it be going to the gym, going to the mall, going to hang out with friends. Anything that didn't involve staying inside all day, I was into. But as time went on, I learned to rebalance my expectations. Eventually, I got used to staying at home, and now I'm at the point where now if I have the opportunity to go outside, I feel a bit lazy and I'd rather stay at home. But this is something that would have never happened before the pandemic. And I learned that because so much change is happening so quickly in our society today, we need to learn how to, I guess you could say, go with the flow. And when you're put or you put yourself through change, you need to realistically evaluate that the results are going to change as well. So let's say, for example, that you quit your 9-to-5 job to pursue your passions. If you expect that after you quit your job, you're still going to live off the same monthly salary, you're probably going to be very devastated. Pursuing something new might mean that you have to move out of your comfortable apartment, maybe change the car you drive, cut down on your food expenses. You need to change your expectations to fit all of that and so much more. If you don't change that and everything else changes around you, you're going to feel very disappointed and you're going to feel like you made the wrong choice before you've even taken a shot. Change, as I've learned throughout my life, is very powerful in terms of what it does to our lives. Yet, it's something that we're constantly experiencing, whether it be something that we willingly wanted to do or something that was forcefully done for us. The pandemic, for example, was something that was forcefully inflicted onto our lives. We had no choice but to change our lifestyle, and society had to adapt. We had to wear masks in public, we couldn't have any social gatherings, and we also had to fight for toilet paper. And for me, just graduating out of college into a society that was shutting down was something that our generation had never experienced before. None of our close peers ever had virtual graduation ceremonies, and none of our close peers graduated into a society where many were being fired from their jobs and no one was hiring. But on the other hand, it also gave me and many others time to step back, take a good look at who they were and what they wanted to do, and execute on projects that they probably would have never done otherwise. For the last couple months, I'm thankful to have had the opportunity to really think about what I want to pursue for the rest of my life. And I really think that if I lived in a world where this pandemic didn't happen, I would have never built up the courage or had the time to learn how to start a YouTube channel. And starting it, I realized that being a YouTuber consisted of learning how to research and script for videos, learning how to edit both video and audio, and the strategy of growing as a YouTuber, including the SEO, the title, the thumbnail, and just the science of YouTube as a whole. These are things that I would have never thought of learning or bothered myself to learn prior to this event. But sadly, I also realized that being a full-time YouTuber is not something that happens within a couple months or even a year. Most of these big YouTubers that you see today have worked day in and day out for years and years to get to where they are today. And for me, that wasn't a very fun realization. But I also think that it's because of this channel that brought out my entrepreneurial spirit. I realized that because we're in a pandemic and jobs aren't easy to find, I might as well take a chance and try to start my own company. Now, I don't have exact proof of this. It totally could have been just an excuse for me to try to start my own business, but I attribute the time I had to think about this whole situation to the pandemic lockdown. And lastly, this pandemic allowed me to double down on my physique and conditioning. For some reason, I've been working out more consistently than I ever had before, ever since all the gyms shut down. And once I saw the results physically from what I was doing, it became harder and harder for me to stop. And hopefully once I am able to go to the gym and play sports again, I'll feel some improvement. But overall, I can say throughout the past couple months that I've been inside, I didn't stay stagnant. At the very least, I can say that I've learned a couple things about YouTube and maybe became a little bit stronger physically. And I'm pretty thankful that I took this break from regular life. It allowed me to figure out which way I want to head in the future. But hopefully some of this information helped you out in one way or another. And if you made it to the end, you clearly didn't find me too boring. So go ahead and click the subscribe button down below. It really means a lot. But that's been it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon in the next video.